All right, everybody. This is the very first podcast of
Forbidden talks with our coworkers.
I am one of your hosts, Joe, and I'm here with
Jessica.
and our very first guest.
That would be me, Emilio.
Right on. All right. So, being that this is our first podcast, bear with us as we have a few issues if we do. And go ahead and I'll let Jessica introduce our topic for today. And yeah.
So we're starting this episode right after the Christmas season, and I have a few grievances with the current state of Christmas as we celebrate it. So one thing that's always kind of bothered me is how we have a lot of traditions that don't seem to line up with like the actual reason to celebrate Christmas, which is as the biblical reason. So I know some people like to use this day as like a like a family meeting time, like time to get together with your family, which is fine. Totally secular reason to get together. But I have grievances with the fact that take they participate in a lot of also pagan rituals, such as bringing in a tree to like decorate every single year. Yeah, like the very like participating in part of a culture is fine, but like actually doing these rituals is not fine because it has religious aspects to it that some people who are not religious might not understand, and thus they're doing something religious which is should be against their moral code. Or if you have a certain religion like Christianity, then you shouldn't be doing other religious activities as well.
Okay. So, I guess first off, I'm interested in how you mentioned like pagan ritualistic type things. So I guess if you can elaborate a little bit more on the history for those who are uneducated, like myself, because as a Christian as well, wasn't aware of like the basis of like tree, for example, being pagan based. If that makes any sense.
So like I'll describe all the different pagan aspects of Christmas, of the modern day Christmas, as I know. Probably not super accurate since this doesn't get discussed very often, but like the day that we have Christmas on, December 25th, used to be the day that the pagans would worship Saturn. So it'll be Saturnalia. And a lot of pagan aspects got incorporated into Christian aspects during the time of the Roman Empire, when like there's this emperor, his name is Constantine, and he decided to become Christian, and he wanted everybody to become Christian, but all the Roman people were worshiping their pagan religion at the time. And so he decided to just make some compromises to try to get people to join the Christian religion instead of being Roman, like regular Romans. And so we have these weird mixes between pagan rituals inside of our Christian holidays, which includes Christmas, and like Easter is also one. We'll just talk about Christmas right now. And then we have like issues with why most people why like the day of worship changed from Saturday to Sunday is also another reason. So like there's a lot of different aspects of modern Christianity that have pagan aspects within them.
Yeah. So my question is, I guess more so, your grievances, how do they affect those who are not Christian, who don't really care about what their basis is in, and just want to use it, as you said, the more secular reasons like family and whatnot?
Well, like if you're participating in Christmas and you're doing these pagan things, and you're like, say you want to be more secular, then you're not actually being secular since you're participating in the pagan rituals and pagan religion. And so like you should also like, or people who want to be secular should also have some grievances as well, and like try not to do these pagan things, even though it is like popular within the tradition. So like maybe you want to put a tree, just put like a small tree or something, or like don't like put so much effort into it to decorate and like make it like a thing that you do all the time. So like, for example, this tree that we have in our office, I made one ornament. I didn't participate in like doing all the, like pulling out all the stops, because that would be like becoming part of the religion and like doing like activities related to the religion rather than being part of the culture.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess my 2 cents comes in as in, how do you feel for like people who, I'm assuming the majority population are like myself, I'm going to assume on Emilio's part as well, who are just unaware of this and just celebrate as if it is what it's always been for us, like what our knowledge is. So how does that come into play? Because it seems like the majority of people don't know the roots or basis of a lot of celebrations in our modern day.
Well, like your first step would just be to like start wondering, why do we do things the way we do? Because there's always bound to be some sort of historical basis for why we do things. And like just going back in time to like learn and educate yourself, and like not asking for change to happen right away, since trying to change what you use, a routine or ritual, will take some time. But like just be more aware that not everything you traditionally do would actually align with what you value. And so maybe we should think about the things that we traditionally do and how it lines up with what we value as a person or as a religion or like whatever you care.
Yeah, definitely think that's a good point to put across. But I guess now my thought process going, and mind you, I'm just being devil's advocate here, keep this all in the open playing field and all that. But I guess something that I'm curious about is this idea that things are always evolving and changing. So the Christmas tradition now has, in my opinion, like I said, this might be a little different, at least from observation. Basically, like, it has nothing to do with those old traditions and whatnot, and just continually change over time until what it is today. So even though it's a facsimile of what used to be and it had a basis in something else, now it's something totally different that doesn't really relate to that. Does that make any sense at all?
So you're basically saying like it once started as like a pagan compromise, and now it's just like something else entirely, even though it has symbolisms related to that.
Yeah, like I said, it's like a facsimile, So it's like now it's its own thing. It doesn't necessarily have to be indicative or representative of what it once was in the past. Just a little food for thought, I guess. At least just because I could see others arguing that if this was presented, to especially a more non-Christian culture that's just celebrating Christmas to celebrate Christmas, as it's become in modern culture. Because I would also argue too, for us, like coming from Middle Eastern descent and whatnot, Christian Middle Eastern descent, like our Christmas isn't even on the 25th, like we do January 7th. And from what I've heard in Europe, it's also kind of similar, in like Spain and whatnot. So I just think a lot of things change over time, and like, at least from my perspective, that's how I think. And Emilio, if you have anything to key in as well, hear your opinion out there.
Yeah, I totally understand what Jessica's saying. Again, I'm not like a huge Christmas person. I'm aware that Christmas, as most people know in the U.S. at least, does have ties to kind of pagan, I guess, traditions, but I don't know what those traditions specifically are. I was aware of like the pagan influence, but not the specifics. And I kind of get it, where Christmas now is kind of sold as like this specific idea where it is kind of like very closely tied to, for example, like kind of like I guess like the religious tradition. I don't know quite how to put it. And while it is related to kind of that religious tradition, it's kind of not aware, or there isn't a lot of focus being put on what is and isn't tied to like Christian roots versus like pagan roots. So it's kind of weird how Christmas has kind of like developed as we know it now. So I can't say too much about kind of, because I'm more on like kind of the secular side, I guess, where yeah, it's mostly for get-togethers with family and friends, and not so much about like the act of decorating trees. I believe isn't like mistletoe tied to pagan tradition as well. I think it was something like that. Stuff like that I'm not too big on, and I don't put a real big focus on. But when we see like you know, mainstream media, how Christmas is portrayed, things like those aspects are really highlighted, very iconic for the Christmas tradition. So I get it. It's kind of interesting. It really is, and I think possibly less and less. There's, I don't know how to put it. It's not like a, maybe an ignorance, or maybe it's just most people just don't know about kind of like that history on where Christmas as we know it, kind of like where these traditions come from. So sometimes it's hard to come across that information if you're not looking for it. But I can totally understand that something like Christmas isn't really kind of like that. I don't even know how to describe it. Yeah, Christmas as we know it isn't really kind of the way it should be followed in the religious sense, I guess.
Yeah.
It's interesting. It's very interesting.
Yeah, and I think Jessica's right with like, you know, the aspect that she presented and all that. There's just so many different angles to attack the whole topic at. So I definitely, you know, like we said, the whole basis of this podcast in general is to present these ideas and then be open-minded about everything and understand new information. So I, for one, definitely appreciate seeing this other side as well and understanding more of the history. You know, will cater my own ideas and such in accordance. So definitely appreciate you sharing that topic. Is there anything you wanted to add on top of that?
Maybe I'm thinking of trying to like describe like how to talk about like you can participate in the culture but not in the religious aspects of that culture. So like I am from like Asian culture, and in this culture we do celebrate a lot of different other holidays like the Lunar New Year, but also because I'm part of an Asian culture, several of my family members are of the Buddhist religion instead of Christian religion. And so what I would do is I would totally participate in the Lunar New Year. I would like bring out red envelopes, dress up, and like go and have some fun at the any like celebration parties that our family would have. What I would not do is I would not bow down to the Buddhist statues that are at the monastery where my grandma is going to be worshiping. I'll take her to the temple because she can't drive, but I won't worship the statues because it's not my religion. And like that's just like how I see the same way with Christmas. Like I'll participate in the United States version of Christmas celebrations, but I won't like do the pagan religious aspects of it. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think that it's true for a majority of people who are at least partially open-minded at the very least too. There's just this idea of just going through the motions but not actually participating in the spiritual aspect. I mean, mostly like in my experience, I've had friends who have joined me at church or ceremonies or something like that out of respect and, you know, follow along and limited themselves on the actual participation, but, you know, observed and kind of understand more. So I totally get that, you know, it's participating in the correct amount for them and also really understanding what's the situation that's going on. So I definitely think that's a great perspective to share, and I do appreciate you bringing that attention, and hope everyone can take something from that.
Yeah, totally.
Cool.
do we
So
segue to our next topic? Completely
totally.
unrelated to Christmas.
Sure, definitely.
All right, our next topic that we're going to discuss about is
This is a doozy.
is going to be about fun facts about women's, because that's who I am.
So before we get started, I would recommend anybody who identifies as he, him, his to at least give us a moment to talk about this and give Jessica the floor, hear her out, because I think, especially if you are heterosexual or interested in the opposite sex, you should at least have a little more understanding of their anatomy as well as what they go through. Just once again, be more open-minded and understanding of kind of what's going on around us. And yeah, I speak as a heterosexual male, so there's that. And take it away, Jessica.
So, many of people who do menstruate, not just like women, but it's usually women, but there also can be other people who are not women, but they do menstruate as well. And the things that we use to help us to stay clean during menstruation are you typically pads or tampons, but we also have reusable options such as like cloth under or like kind of like a cloth based pad or a under or like a period underwear or a cup. Yeah, these are like different items that we use to try to help us to like stay sanitary. And one of the things that really strikes me as like completely like why does society work this way kind of feeling is that these products that we use to try to stay clean are not available for homeless people that are going through the same same bodily anatomy or times of the month that we do. And so like when homeless people have to like go through these, they can't get them because these aren't available for reasons such as like they're taxed different, so they're taxed as luxury items. And when like people who are on food stamps or poor people try to go to get them, they have to pay them out of like a separate money section than like trying to buy soap and toilet paper. So they'll end up just using toilet paper or just going in their pants like they normally do. And that's not sanitary, especially since they're going to be homeless. They don't have access to places to stay clean all the time. And so many women's shelters always ask for donations of these feminine hygiene products so that the people who visit will have access to a way to stay clean during this time.
Yeah, that's definitely great information to have, and hopefully a lot more people will be more aware and actively participate in being able to help other people, because that's something that gets overlooked, especially during holiday season. People want to help each other out, and it's mostly going to the feedings or participating in volunteering, but nobody really thinks about donating things that are more common to us people who may have more privilege and less, obviously less common, like you mentioned, for those who have more hardships that they're going through. So that's great information. Thank you for presenting that, and hope these viewers, listeners, find the kindness in their heart to take that and run with it. That's pretty cool. So I guess segueing off that, I was wondering what your opinion is as a heterosexual female, how you feel your significant other, actually also for any type of relationship with someone who menstruates in that relationship, how the other person should act about that, or what kind of ideology, methodology, or attitude. What's most comfortable for you, and what do you think would be helpful for most people?
So I'll start off with saying that every person who menstruates is going to be different. The way I describe myself is not going to be the same for how someone else might describe him or her or their selves, So like I guess like I can get real private, like real in detail about like how I experience menstruating, and then just talk about like how I would like people around me or like my significant other to try to support me. So like like right before I begin the cycle, I get like kind of more grumpy, like the hormones are all over the place, and it shows up on my face. I break out sometimes. And yeah, I just have a harder time controlling my emotions. So just like try to like be more understanding, and like if I do get angry, know that it's just temporary. Food usually solves the problem.
Yeah.
And so yeah, just like don't like take anything against it, and just like we can talk about it later once I've calmed down. And then during my cycle, actually feel like pain at the beginning when I first start like having the blood come out. And I would take painkillers to try to relieve it, but sometimes it's not good enough, or sometimes I don't have access to painkillers. And so the best thing you can do is just to like help me find painkillers or other ways to like non-medicatively relieve pain. So like usually like hot packs would be a useful thing. And just like, and if like I do run out of period products at home or like wherever I am, help me find them. And don't be ashamed that you're um, looking for products that don't necessarily help you out, but they help out someone who is like maybe of that people like tend to look down on as like weaker or whatever. And honestly, the cashier doesn't care. You're just buying a product that will give towards their salary.
Yeah, definitely. I love the idea that you brought up about, not being ashamed to go out of your way and help other people, especially like a significant other or family member. And so on that note, I kind of wanted to touch upon, once again, going into this idea that's always been around us and this toxic masculinity that we exist in, and like this hegemony and whatnot. So you said that in the beginning, you'll probably get all grumpy or something similar due to hormones and whatnot. And so I'm just curious as to how you feel about how that ideology and presenting that, and how, the male or opposite gender or what have you, someone who doesn't menstruate will approach it as, oh, she's grumpy because it's that time of the month, which is, in my opinion, something that I hate hearing. I really look down on that. I don't like it when I hear that, because it's, saying, it's like, I don't know. To me, I think I find it degrading, but I'd also like to see what your opinion is on that and whatnot.
See, so I do know like see like how someone could use like, oh, she's just grumpy because she's on that time, as like very degrading. But like it's just like if I'm talking to someone who's understanding of my usual character, I'm not usually a grumpy person unless like I'm really hungry and frustrated, or something frustrates me right before it happens. Like sometimes like, or like I can talk about like a recent event that happened. I got really grumpy because the cat kept screaming at my door to like give it attention. And then next thing it happened, I have my period. So like it kind of like is a sign for me that I'm gonna have the cycle start again when I am more grumpier than usual. And so that's why I see it as like a quality that I have, but I don't think every single woman or every single person who menstruates does get grumpy right before. And so like trying to use this as like a stereotype that all women get grumpy right because they're on their cycle is not good, because I think all generalizations are bad. Like even that statement could be bad as well.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I totally get that, and I'm really glad that you brought up that topic. And just, overall, I guess the takeaway for those of you who are in relationship or have family members and whatnot that go through these things is, like you said, just be open-minded and more understanding. Definitely take that advice to heart, and I do appreciate you sharing that again. Is there anything, Emilio, you want to add on that? Trying to key you in as well.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, to piggyback on the idea of like, women getting more emotional, like heightened hormones or whatever. So with my girlfriend, she doesn't really get like that. She doesn't get, at least from what I can tell, she'll get grumpy once in a while, but it's not necessarily because of the hormones, in my opinion. It's just because, just in general, she'll have just constant cramps, and I feel like anyone who's in constant pain, like obviously they're not going to be so chipper all the time, right? So it's not necessarily kind of like women being quote unquote emotional during these times. It's just, in my girlfriend's case, it's just occasionally some of these cramps will get really bad. And then obviously, like, patience is a little thinner during those times. So yeah, she may get grumpy. So I think it's totally unfair. And honestly, like, like everyone gets grumpy every now and then. It's not a big deal. It really isn't. So to use that against women, this idea of like, they're over emotional during these times, they possibly act, out of character or possibly irrational. I think it's totally unfair. It's not representative of menstruation in general. You can't generalize that. Like Jessica was talking about, it's going to be different for each woman. Yeah, anyone who menstruates, it's going to be different for them. So yeah, definitely. I don't know. Just maybe what's the word? Kind of a ignorant male-based thought, possibly.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the biggest thing is just, using a tool like this, and this is why it's, once again, this podcast is here, is just to increase awareness. And, I think a lot of people who maybe had a relationship with someone who went through a menstrual cycle, or someone in their family, but has never really been that close during the time period to really understand what's going on. I think the most important thing is just being open-minded enough to go out of your way to understand what's going on. Because I think if anybody, like you said, Emilio, understood what's really going on and how difficult that is to go through, anybody in their right mind would want to be more understanding and more helpful in that situation. So I think that's all it is. It's just, like I said, just not being ignorant, really just open to learning.
I also do want to add that the whole menstruation, I don't think it should be considered something that's like disgusting or gross. I mean, it happens. It's natural. Just kind of like get over it if it grosses you out, really. Like, it's not a big deal. But that's just my opinion, of course.
I could be a little aggressive with it. Say with your chest.
Yeah, it is a little aggressive. I know. I'm like forcing this idea. Just get over it. But yeah, honestly, I think there should be more acceptance for something like that in the general public.
Not so taboo.
Yeah, exactly. I've heard of other typically like cisgendered males. They have this idea that you can control it. You could just like hold it in as if it's like a pee, right?
Yeah.
Can you control your headaches? I don't think so.
Yeah. Yeah, like
I can't even predict the exact day and time and hour that it comes. Like I try to like get like a better estimate of when I need to pack the sanitary material in my backpack or something. But I don't know when it comes. So if I can't predict exactly when it comes, how can I control it? Which actually segues to a fun fact, which might also be like not scientific, but it seems to be working. Like I can like try to manipulate the day it comes by my diet and exercise.
Really?
Like if I exercise a lot, like a lot during the entire month of my like after my period's over, and I stress it, like it like gives my body a lot more stress. It might not be healthy because I know that people who would typically menstruate, but they're going over like issues with their diet, like they're anorexic or something, they don't have periods as well because their body knows that they're not healthy enough to do so.
Right.
I
And
see.
so if I do eat stuff or do exercises that stress out my body, then I can somewhat delay my own cycle. Similarly, if I do things that would relax it and decrease my stress, it could come sooner.
Interesting. I'm very curious. I do think there might be some scientific backing. So anybody who's listening, be sure to go in the comments below and let us know. It would be great to know. That could also segue into a recurring topic we can do. Jessica's fun fact / please let us know in the comments if it's true or not. That would be fantastic. Love to hear from the fans.
Man, I eat hot Cheetos to try to delay it.
Wow. Okay. Also check that out. We'd like to know.
Hot Cheetos,
Any
chips,
doctors out
and
there?
then like herbal teas to try to make it come sooner. These are the ways, man. I don't know. It might be like some like weird Chinese myth or something, but I don't know.
Dang, now I want to hear more Chinese myths. Next time. I guess I have a short question I'd like to ask. This is not at all to do with my current situation. Maybe it is. You'll never know. I would love to hear y'all's opinion on how long is long enough to wait after the end of one relationship to start another
one. Maybe I'm just like operating off like a caveman brain, but honestly, like you do you. If it's like, as long as both parties are very clear that it's over, the relationship is over, either are, in my opinion, clear to do whatever they may like. If that means like hopping into another relationship right away, that's up to them, really. In my opinion, it's not so bad. Of course, there are probably some nuanced situations, like specialized situations, I guess, where that might not look so good for that person or that party. But I think generally, just do you, like, just get right back in it. That's totally fine.
Yeah, I think like it's the same thing with me. Like if both parties are consenting, then like yeah, go ahead and like do what you want to do. Alternative, if you're like of someone who's like of concern of like how the society views you, because maybe you're more of a public-esque figure, I would say like wait at least more than a month, because it looks kind of weird if you break off a relationship and then 1 month later you're with someone else, and you kind of like that it makes it seem like you broke off the first relationship because you wanted to go for the second relationship.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And so like
that's a dang good point.
Yeah, so like if both parties were consenting and you're not such public figures that other people might start like judging you, then just do what you need to do.
Yeah, I can definitely see people like judging you. For example, like if you're caught cheating or something, and then like it was an ongoing thing for months, and then once you guys broke up, just immediately that person starts an official relationship with the person they cheated with. Like that looks weird. That's
definitely
cool. But yeah, in those cases, yeah, just do you think?
Yeah, so I think where it gets a little touchy, like you said, one of the special circumstances, like, relationships can end in many different ways. And if there's one that ends mutually on good terms and whatnot, you guys are still friends and all, um, do you let the idea come into your head like, oh, the other person is going to be sad or hurt that I moved on so quickly, or something along those lines? Or do you go strictly internally and only think about yourself and your own feelings? Because I feel like if you end on good terms, you also want to make sure that the other person is healing well and isn't hurt by any further actions you're taking. Or am I thinking too far into this? Maybe being a little too woke here.
I think I want to start out by saying, like, this feeling of possible guilt or reluctance kind of stems from this feeling of kind of I don't know if it's too strong of a word, but it's very similar to compassion. It's just this idea of like caring for possibly this other party to the extent that you don't want to cause them any more possible like emotional turmoil or anything like that. But there is that basis of considerance with the feeling of like guilt or reluctance. Just to kind of like start off there. I really think it depends. Also, it depends on how the two parties split up. If it was like a decision on both persons' parts, and they're very clear that, yeah, we can stay friends, I could see, you know, kind of updating each other on their personal relationships after the breakup is totally fine. But if it was something that like was pretty hard on both people, it might seem, it might not come off very well if you update them on like a change in your relationship, you know. So I think it really depends. But in the case that the two people remain friends, then I feel like that's a discussion that isn't out of the question. Saying something like, hey, in the future, you know, obviously I'm going to get back into looking for another relationship. Would this be something that you're comfortable with me talking about? Things like that. So it really depends. I think communication still between friends is also important.
Yeah, definitely. I think your whole dissertation there was pretty insightful. Is there anything you wanted to add on that, Jessica?
I mean, I like agree with everything that Emilio was talking about, because like just communication is number one. As long as you can, you've said that if you're still friends, then you should be able to communicate, and then you can have this as one of your topics of communication. Like, are we still comfortable with me moving on to someone else, since we are currently friends? And just like making sure that there are, even though it's like a tough question, you should be okay to ask it, and you should respect their decision at the end, whether or not you want to move on or you want to like give it more time, because time is also another way for healing to happen.
Yeah,
Communication
definitely.
and time.
Yeah, I'd say that's hands down the best two options for healing. That's awesome. I do appreciate you guys' insight on that. That is fantastic. And obviously, definitely agree with all of you guys and everything you've been saying.
Maybe going back to the previous topic, to be kind of like devil's advocate. In my opinion, I think the safest bet would to just be don't talk about it, don't mention it. If you're still in contact with your ex, and then you start to date someone or you get into some sort of relationship, just don't say it. If it never comes up in conversation, I think, of course, in my opinion, it's a safe bet to just not mention anything. You don't really have an obligation to the other person to mention something like that anymore. And then it kind of goes back to, well, what kind of friends, if you guys are friends, what kind of friends are you? To some almost analogous to like, you know, just acquaintances or actual like best friends or something. But in my opinion, if you're kind of on the fence, you're wondering what to do, just don't say anything. That's fine. You don't really have that obligation anymore to your ex.
Yeah, definitely. I could see. I can see how that could be a little bit spicy for some people, but the way you justified it seemed pretty on point. Very interesting. I like that point of view. Alrighty then. I think that's it. I'm gonna wrap this one up. Anything else you want to say in closing notes?
Thanks for having me. This was interesting. It was fun. I'd be down to do this again, for sure.
Fantastic. Yeah. Well, thanks for being a wonderful first guest. We appreciate you having you on the show. It was a great time. And I will speak for myself and Jessica when I say thank you all who follow along and listening. Please be sure to like and comment. What you liked about it, what you didn't like about it, and definitely put in any suggestions that you guys have for spicy, saucy, taboo topics down below, so that we can go ahead and get to them and maybe give you a little shout out for it. We're always looking for cool ideas to talk about and be open-minded about. So Jessica, got anything you want to add on that?
Just remember that even though we are talking about taboo topics and controversial topics, don't stir up unnecessary conflict inside the comments, because we're just trying to be more understanding. And at the end of the day, if we can learn a new perspective, that's all we care about.
Yeah,
awesome.
Just be cool.
Yeah, in the end, be cool people, be kind to each other, and be open-minded. So signing off, I'm Joe.
This is Jessica.
That was Emilio, and we will catch y'all next time.